guys, welcome back to my shelf. Today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up, and I did say in my weekly vlogs that I was going to mush May and June wrap-ups together. Because I've read my average amount of books this month, I decided to just go on as normal and just do one wrap-up for this month. Sorry if I fiddle with my hair and stuff, I'm just feeling a bit on edge, I feel ill, I'm hungover. Just saying. Here are the books that I managed to get read in May. There are 4 of them and they're all kind of decently sized except from the top one, which is my least favourite one, but we'll get all into it into the video. So the first book that I read in the month of May was Scarlet by Marissa Meyer, and I was calling this Cinder throughout the entire week that I was reading this. I honestly forgot that I had read this until I checked on my Goodreads. It said I had read this and I was like, when? But this is basically the second book in the Lunar Chronicles series following Cinder, and I can't really say that much about it, but I did give it a 4 stars in my rating system on Goodreads, and I really fell in love with Scarlet's character, but Cinder is still my absolute fave, my absolute bae. The next book that I read in the month of May is It Only Happens in the Movies by Holly Bourne. This book I can talk about all day, every day. This book is about Audrey, and Audrey is totally over romance films after a really horrible breakup. To distract herself from her home life and her school life and her broken down relationship, she decides to apply for a job in a cinema, in a local cinema, which she gets the job and meets this boy called Harry. This is very cliche, I'm not going to lie to you, it's very cliche and I don't think you'll like it if you don't like these kinds of books, but Holly Bourne is one of my absolute guilty pleasures. I gave this a 5 stars on Goodreads. I knew I was going to love this, it was absolutely brilliant. When I closed it, it literally felt like I had lost a friend, and that's how you know that you have a good book in your hands. I actually got a tweet off of my distress when I cried on public transport for this by the author herself. She just said, whoops. Excuse you. Audrey was honestly a really nice protagonist to be in. Most protagonists in YA are naive or annoying or make all the wrong decisions, but Audrey was incredibly strong, and without giving any spoilers, a lot of the things that happen in this book happens to a lot of people, and a lot of people will like let it get the better of them and lose their strength because of it maybe, but Audrey doesn't, and Audrey fights back and knows what she's worth, and I loved that about her. I loved how she was represented in this book and I love it so much. This book is extremely self-aware, it's very stereotypically romantic, it's hypocritical, and it knows the fact that it's hypocritical. These are the types of things that I mean in the book. So it will have a little description of like a movie or a character or something and give it like 5 stars. For this one it says the best friend who only exists to be your best friend, like a character or like a plot device used in like romance kind of thing. I just thought it was very clever and I loved all of the characters. I could relate to most of the characters and found myself in Audrey's shoes and even in other girls' shoes as well, if you know what I mean. It was amazing. My favourite book of the month by far. The next book that I read in the month of May was All That She Can See by Carrie Hope Fletcher, and I think I gave this a 3/3.5 on Goodreads. Let me check. So yeah, I did give this in between a 3 and a 3.5 stars on Goodreads, and also in my Goodreads review I said that I saw this as a darker version of Inside Out, because this book is about a woman named Cherry can see medlums, and most people that she knows can't, until she meets Chase, someone who can. They can see medlums, which are basically manifestations of people's emotions. So Cherry can see negative ones like loneliness, depression, and Chase can see positive ones like nostalgia, happiness. So these guys obviously become unlikely friends and form a companionship to help each other embrace their own feelings, embrace other people's feelings, while kind of getting into trouble at the same time. This book has a lot of spirituality references in it, like tarot cards, palm reading, which I can really appreciate it. Even on the other side, Carrie has like a little spice for spirituality and mentioning it in her books. It's really nice to have a nod to spirituality in contemporary and just in literature or in general, because not many people can do that. I feel like this book lacked, however, everything that I loved about Carrie's previous books, like On the Other Side. I feel like the writing has kind of lacked something that I loved in the first book that I read of hers. I didn't really like any of the characters like I was supposed to. I just didn't really gel with the characters so well, and because it's emotion based, you're supposed to feel for these characters, and because there was no time to, you know, really sit down with the characters and get to know them in character development, because there were so many of them, the plot kind of fell a little bit flat for me. I still enjoyed the book, it was still really interesting, original, and I really loved reading it, but I feel like I didn't love the characters as much as I should, and because this book is literally based on the characters' emotions, I didn't really care for it. I really admire Carrie though for outlining and almost calling out happiness kind of thing, because she uses emotions like in a balance like I do in my personal work as well. It's really important that people know that you're not supposed to feel happy all the time. You're allowed to feel a mixture of emotions, sometimes even happiness and sadness at the same time. Go read them on the The final book I read this month that I literally finished about 5 or 10 minutes ago is Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. It's got a 1 star on my Goodreads rating because I physically felt sick reading this book. The timeline is so dotted everywhere. It's literally, you could be in December 2016 one minute and then you're in November 1993 and you don't know where the fuck you're placed in the timeline. And characters will die or get killed, which I'll come into in a minute as well. Characters will die or get killed and then will be in a timeline or the part of the story where they're alive again. I feel like non-linear books are just not my thing. I didn't realise this followed that story, otherwise I would not have read it. I didn't like We Were Liars and I didn't like this book. I'm sorry, I don't think E. Lockhart is for me, and I honestly can't see why. She's a really popular writer. Her writing is really dark, and I get self-expression in the fact that some writers do have dark storylines because they're going through something in their life, they're just a dark person. But it's a point in this book where I realise maybe Lockhart needs fucking psychological help, because this book follows a girl named Julie, and her best friend Imogen has just committed suicide. Trigger warning for suicide on this book, that reminds me. And Julie is like an identity thief, stealer. She's an identity thief, hence Genuine Fraud. I didn't really get it. I didn't really get the story. I didn't know where I was coming or where I was going. I feel like it was just too dark. There's a line with self-expression and there's a line with I'm going through a dark time, so I'm going to write about a dark time. This took it too far, and I feel like E. Lockhart just needs professional help. I also didn't like the main character. She was really unlikable. All the characters apart from Imogen, I actually really liked Imogen, which is a shame because she was put into this world that doesn't fucking make sense, and I would have loved to have seen more of her. I didn't like it. Sorry if you liked it, but it was a 1-star read for me. I really can't bother to hold all those books back up because they're on my bed ready to be put back on my shelves, but there are all the books that I read in May and my thoughts a little bit maybe. My favourite was by far It Only Happens in the Movies by Holly Baum, because she is just my everything. She's my guilty pleasure. She's an amazing writer and I love her books so much. I have a little collection forming just down there. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you'd like to, please give it a massive thumbs up and subscribe. I make new content whenever I like on the channel. I don't have a schedule on this channel. I kind of upload whenever I have the time because I'm a very busy chicken. And I will see you next time for another bookish video. Bye!
I wanna watch them fly and fly and see them soar up into the unknown. But I feel just like a nerd watching birds, watching me here.